Folks, Chris here at the Crab Cottage. I wanted to give you guys a tour of what my garden looks like this fall. It's very much a mess, like many fall gardens are, but I thought I'd give you a tour, show you what I got done this year, this planting season, kind of my plans for next year. So we'll start here in the front of the house. Right along here, I had an old concrete walk. It was actually concrete on top of flagstone, very, very thick. And it used to go to the back door before I put the privacy fence up. And so I had a friend, a local family member actually, who came with some heavy equipment and dug it up, because I had tried to dig it up myself, break it up myself, but it was too deep and too thick. So anyways, he dug that sidewalk up. So this whole side bed is going to be reworked probably this winter in preparation for spring. I've got some leftover lavender in there, but I'm going to be putting hopefully a Russian pomegranate like right here between the two windows. That's where the Russian pomegranate's going to go. I think over here more towards the porch I might put a dappled willow or witch hazel, maybe a beautyberry. I've got a couple of different things that I need to get in the ground, so some of those may go over there. But then next year, this front yard space, let me pull back a little bit here. It's not super huge, but this front yard space will be planted out with some more unusual fruit trees. So I will be putting in medlar, jujube, and what is the other one? Medlar, jujube, and quince. Those will be going here in this front yard section. The only other things I've got going on here in the front is I have those two bushes, which are Nanking cherry. I think this is their third year for those. I did get some cherries off of them this year, and then planted in between them, something I just planted this spring, is a mayhaw. So the idea is that the fruit in the front of the house will not be fruits that people will be very familiar with, and so they're going to be less likely to pick the fruits, because they who knows what a medlar is, who knows what a jujube is, and so they probably won't pick them and eat them because they don't know what they are. Here also in the front, in the parking strip, I'm going to utilize the parking strip. I'm going to put right in this area here a hickory tree, a shagbark hickory, because I really, really like hickory nuts. I know it's going to take me years before I get a harvest, but I really like hickory nuts, so that's going to go there. My strategy is that by planting some of my larger trees on the periphery of my lot, like in the parking strip, I'm maximizing the use of my space, because that way half the tree is hanging over, well actually probably more like 2/3 of the tree is hanging over otherwise useless planting space, that being the street and the sidewalk. So by planting a hickory here, it's going to kind of extend basically the size of my lot by hanging out into the street. So the hickory is going to go there, and then also up here, I think I'm going to put two bay plants. Sorry, not bay, bayberry. Right here I planted, what did I plant here? American persimmon. That was planted this year, and they do require 2 for pollination, so I have another American persimmon over here. It's pretty small. So again, those get pretty big, and the idea is that by putting them in the parking strip, I maximize the use of my space. Something else that's going over here in the front porch. Hi, Iris. I have this volunteer mulberry that I've been fighting, and I decided that for now I'm just going to leave it and see if I get mulberries off of it. I've been trimming it back to kind of keep it a little bit more contained, but I just decided that I'm going to leave it. And then here in the front, I also planted some currants. I planted both pink champagne currants and Barla Duke white currants. So I have those on either side as well. That's fabulous. That was my cat going potty in my garden. Okay, so we're going to be moving into the backyard in just a second. But before we do that, I want to show you a couple things. This is just a project. I picked this set up at a garage sale with the paint flaking off of it. So that'll be a spring project. I'll repaint that. Over here in this little strip by the garage and the driveway, I have 2 high bush cranberry. I think this is the 3rd year for those. 2nd or 3rd year. And then in the front of them, I have some American cranberry. I was going to put these someplace else in my garden, in my food forest, but I decided to stick them here because they do like acidic soil and kind of wet soil, and this stays sort of wet and acidic because of all the pine needles. So I've got another one that I've got to transplant to the left of that high bush cranberry, but this is kind of my cranberry bed, if you will. Okay. So I got a lot of messes going on in the fall garden, but projects that didn't get done and projects I want to do, but thought I'd go ahead and show you. Here I've got a couple buckets. One of them is my chicken water that I've got to scrub out, and the other one is one that I get fruit scraps in from a local restaurant. They give me their fruit scraps and I feed them to my chickens, and that bucket is ready to go back to them to get filled again. So here on this side of the privacy fence, something new I put in this year is I did put in these trellises, and I put in this maypop down there, you can see, which is a native passion fruit. So I only have one this year, one stem, and I planted it really late, so that's why it looks so leggy, because that growth actually occurred when it was still in a pot. But next year I'll be planting more maypops along this strip. They produce a crinkly fruit just like a passion fruit, so those are going to be going there. Up here I've got a variety of things that still need to be planted in the garden, some of which I mentioned that are going to go in the front yard. The problem is a lot of these are ground cover shrubs that I intended to put in my food forest, but I've been dealing with a thistle problem all year long, so I don't have space for them. So we're going to see, I might actually plant them in one of my raised beds as a temporary holding place for next year. I might actually just leave them in the pots and put them in the beds. A couple of pumpkins that came out of my garden this year. I've got my hardneck garlic that is going to be planted probably later today. These are new, these Dunstan chestnuts. I have a spot on the periphery of my garden back by my back alley where I'm going to put the chestnuts. So those need to go in the ground this week. And then these are the shrubs and stuff that I just haven't got the ground prepped. So they need to go in the ground, obviously, in the next couple weeks. We've got sweet shrub, witch hazel, American beauty berry, which is beautiful and edible. What else have we got here? Rosa rugosa and spice bush. And then back in the back, I've got some Jerusalem artichokes that I'm also going to transfer to a bed for the winter. Over here in all of this, we've got low-scape mound aronia berry, which is like a aronia berry ground cover. Native plums, bearberry, Arctic raspberries, lingonberries, Formosan carpet raspberry, marionberries, northern bayberry, and I think that's it. Yeah. So obviously still a lot more to plant, which is why I've been trying to use all the nice weather we've been having to get out here in the garden and prep the beds to get this stuff in the ground. Whatever doesn't get in the ground before maybe late November will probably just be dug into one of my raised beds and put in there temporary. So this garden bed here was extended this year. It used to, and I think I showed this in my other video, it used to kind of go in a diagonal-ish curve right here. So this space is all new, and it's all planted out with yellow perennials, yellow and orange perennials. Most of my perennials have some function, so most of them are medicinal or culinary. We've got in here some hummingbird mint or agastache, St. John's wort, arnica. I got a rosemary ARP right there, which is supposed to survive zone 6 winters. It's supposed to be the hardiest rosemary. So let's see if it comes back next year. Here's hoping. I've got some blanket flower. What is this one called? I can't remember. This is the one that basically Robitussin is made out of. Let's see if I can find my... This is why I put colt's foot. Yeah, colt's foot. This is why I put tags in all of my gardens, because I can't remember. I have a really bad memory. In the middle of the bed, I have an Asian persimmon, a hardy Asian persimmon that I planted this spring. It doesn't look super great. I think because I kind of burnt it. I was trying to burn weeds in the garden, and that got a little hot. So hopefully it springs back next year. It'll grow up and fill this space. What else have I got in here? Some nutmeg thyme, toothache plant. What is this? More arnica, different kind over here. Oregano, yarrow, some calendula back in there, black-eyed Susans, What is this one? Feverview. So all kinds of stuff. What's that? Tansy. Yep, all kinds of stuff. So this garden space, all this stuff that you see is new this year. This is my garden from the last few years, the older part of the garden, that kind of got out of hand this year. So I need to do a lot of trimming and weeding and prep for next year, and hopefully won't have quite as many big projects next spring, so I'll be able to focus a little bit more on keeping the garden in shape. Over here against the garage, this area still really hasn't been fully developed. It's north facing, so I have to do shady plants. I do have some hostas, unnamed hostas that were rescued from a neighbor's house. Hostas are edible. I've got clematis back in there that was really pretty earlier this year, my compost bin. Another clematis on this trellis, and then this year I planted cloudburst clematis at this one. It doesn't look like much right now. I also threw a daylily in there. Daylilies are pretty tough, can handle the drip line from the garage. This bed was extended this year as well. It's my sort of my salad greens bed. This plant in the front is salad burnet. I actually have two of them. I have that one and that one back there that I grew from seed. What else I've got in here? Good King Henry, Rumex raspberry dressing, variegated Solomon seal, sorrel profusion, and ostrich ferns. Those are all growing in that bed. On the trellis here, I've got some kiwis. I planted a pollinator kiwi there this year, as well as this prolific hardy kiwi, which you can see is growing up the trellis. These were planted this year. And then over on this side is my kiwi that was planted 3 years ago, also a prolific kiwi, and the leaves have fallen off now for the winter, but you can see it crawls all the way up over to there. So that kiwi's doing really well. Hopefully I'll start getting some fruit in the next year or two. I may have to wait until the other ones are a little bigger so they're pollinating each other. The kiwi on this side is also a hardy kiwi. This is Anna. This bed here was also extended this year, brought out. It used to end right here, so all of this is new. Like I said, this trellis, this kiwi trellis is new. And I moved some things around here. A lot of this stuff is probably stuff I'm going to move around a little bit next year. But some of it I just needed a spot for it. So in the ground it went. Again, almost all culinary or medicinal herbs. We've got a couple different types of oregano, winter savory, Russian sage, borage, anise hyssop, lavender, purple dead nettle, skullcap. So just all kinds of things here. Catnip. And then on this new trellis that went in this year, I have two new grape plants. They're both Concord seedless. This grape trellis, the one behind it, produced prolifically this year. In fact, I didn't even get a chance to harvest all the grapes. Most of them were starting to rot, so they went to my chickens. But you can see, like, here's a bunch of grapes that I didn't harvest. Huge things of grapes. And those are probably, I might pick those and give them to the chickens. I just didn't get, part of the problem with having a food forest and having so much food coming out of your yard is if you work a full-time job and are raising kids and active in the community and all that stuff, it's kind of hard to get everything harvested in time. Some bags of mulch that I've got to spread around some things. This bed is starting to get the creep of the thistle. You can see here some thistles. So we're starting to get the thistle creep. We're going to have to be really diligent with that next year. I've got some garlic chives in here, echinacea, bee balm, a couple different bee balms, lavender, yarrow, transplanted some horehound in there, and I've got some chives. I'm actually going to come out here and gather the seeds. Look at all the seeds in the garlic chives, and those are going to be spread in my food forest orchard. So they should help with deterring pests and also just cover some of the ground surface. So that's going to happen probably this week. Then this back section, I didn't actually give a tour to you guys of this back section this spring in my spring garden tour because it was such a mess. So let me just show you what I've got going on back here. First, I've got the T-post in, put another trellis in here, 2 more grapes. These are a Suffolk seedless grape. Then this grape arbor here, also produced prolifically. That was a Mars seedless grape. I made grape juice out of those grapes. As you can see, my paths, look at that. It's horrible. It's a jungle. It's weeds, but most detrimentally, it's thistles. So I need to get in there, and that's what I'm working on this fall, is pulling all that out. And I'm not composting the thistles because I don't want them to get into my soil and grow back, so it's going in the trash. This blackberry back here is 2 blackberries. Produces pretty prolifically. I don't want it in that location. I want to put it in the back of my garden. And honestly, I don't particularly like the blackberries. They're kind of tart for me. They're not like sweet off the cane. So I think I might just cut them down to nothing and pull out the roots and do the best to get them out and not even transplant them. I was going to transplant them into the back, but now I'm thinking it's just going to be more work, and tonight I should just pull the whole thing out. So that's going to be a winter project this year. Over here in this bed is almost completely overtaken by thistles. So this, I'm going to have to stay on top of that this coming year. I did a really bad job this year. There are some coneflowers in there, as well as some catnip. Here is an area where you can see where I tried to remove the thistles this spring. I was hand digging really deep all this area and pulling out the thistles and all the roots and that sort of thing. And then as you can imagine, that is a lot of work, so I kind of ran out of time and the thistles came back. In fact, I would say the thistles were almost worse in this area than in the areas where I did not disturb the ground, because basically what I did was plant the seeds. So I've been pulling thistle in this area and throwing it in the trash. I'm going to come through here and smooth it, and we're going to take a different approach to the thistles for 2024. In 2023, I tried to hand dig them all out. I tried burning them with a weed torch, and I tried using Roundup. Sorry, I know, but they're super bad. And none of them really worked. So what we're going to actually try in 2024 is getting rid of all the thistles above ground and then laying down a super thick layer of cardboard with a super thick layer of mulch. That is going to be my approach this coming year. This little bed over here, also overtaken by thistles. I'm going to put the Rosa rugosa in there. I've got some rhubarb in there. I'm going to put some more of that. One thing I noticed is that in areas where I had plants growing, I didn't have as many thistles. So the rhubarb did a really good job of basically shading out the thistles. I mean, you still have thistles around it, but it did a good job of kind of keeping them under control where the rhubarb was. So next year, the plan is this bed is going to, after rip out the thistles and put down cardboard and mulch, I'm going to get more rhubarb next year, put in the Rosa rugosa, and I think, and I know this sounds crazy, but I think I'm going to broadcast mint seeds to hopefully overtake the thistles, because it is kind of a contained area. I've got the air conditioning unit back here, and you know, it's enclosed on 3 sides by the cellar door and the building. So I think it would be a fairly easy place to contain the mint, and hopefully it will overtake the thistles. So that is the plan for that for spring 2024. Okay, so let's look at the orchard, and super embarrassing to show you, but I'm going to show you. So here I have some grapes, what kind of grapes are these? Muscadine. Yes, I forgot what they were. These are muscadine grapes that I planted here in this trellis. One of them took, I think that's the female, and on this side the male did not take. So I'll be seeing if I can get a replacement on the male. But this is supposed to be a path, and as you can see, it's been completely overtaken. Now, I do want to show you this. See all the thistles here? Now, look to the right. That's where I planted strawberries last year. And there are some thistles in there, but for the most part, the thistle situation is under control, much more under control. So what I'm going to do is let the strawberries continue to spread. And I'm actually going to plant more strawberries in the back there, and hopefully that will help with the thistle problem. Like I said, if you're doing a food forest and you are sheet mulching an area, you better plant it fully out with plants the year that you sheet mulch it, because if you don't, the weeds will come in, and then you basically have to start from scratch. So lesson learned on that. I'm going to be, once I pull these thistles out and do the sheet mulching here, I'm going to plant this area super heavy to try to deal with the thistles. So the other problem I had was at one point I was just going to mow down this path. This is a path, believe it or not. But because of the rocks, the clever little rock border that I put in, it was hard to see where the edges were, and it was just not very efficient to mow. And then the other problem was I was actually going to sheet mulch it this spring, but because I had all these rocks down, I would have to basically move all the rocks, sheet mulch it, and put all the rocks down. So for next year, I'm actually just removing the rocks. This whole area is path lined with rocks. I'm going to remove the rocks, which will make it easier for me to mulch and mow and do whatever I need to do to get the thistles under control. So in this area, this is my orchard. Let me step back without tripping here. This is my orchard. It started off 3 years ago, I think, as just 2 straight lines of trees. This is one of those areas where I sheet mulched it, killed the grass, put in the trees, but didn't have the money for all the perennials in between the trees and the ground covers, and that's when the thistles took control. Well, I had money for the strawberries. That's about it. So you can see here how the strawberries are over the rocks into the paths. This variety of strawberry is a June-bearing strawberry. I can't remember the type, but it's obviously very spreading. Look at that. Strawberries are all the way over here. Didn't even plant them over there. This here is a spring satin plum cot that it got its spring pruning, but it did not get its summer solstice pruning, so it's going to need to be pruned heavily next year. What else is in here? I've got a dwarf everbearing mulberry right here. I've got a pear, a kefir pear in between. I've got josta berries that didn't really do a whole lot this year. Hopefully next year they'll do better. Got another josta berry over here. Look at all the thistles, guys. But look, see the strawberries down in there? Where there are lots of strawberries, there aren't as many thistles. This is a Santa Rosa plum. This one is a very vigorous grower that needs a lot of pruning. I've got some American cranberry down in here. Look at this. Look how it's so small. And it just is not competing against the thistles. So that's coming out, being moved up to my front cranberry bed. And this is all getting sheet mulched again. You can see here all the rocks, which is why I didn't sheet mulch it. Back here is a little cluster of honeyberry. I've got 3 different honeyberry, and I just bought another one that'll go in here in the spring. I'm just going to plant it in a bed for this year. Let's see what else. Here's another pear. This is an Anjou pear. Go back in here into all the thistles. The thistles went to seed too, which is just like bad, bad, bad. This is an apple. Let me see if I can figure the variety. This is a Honeycrisp apple, and there's a black currant in between the apple trees, and there's another, I believe another apple over there. This is a Liberty apple right here with a kind of a crooked, unique trunk. This is a McIntosh apple. Over here is a champagne cherry. I think that's a sweet cherry. I can't remember. Over here is another currant. And there is my other apple. That one is, oh no, sorry, another cherry. That is my North Star cherry. That is the only cherry, other than my Nanking cherry bushes in the front, that actually produced cherries. It gave me like 4 cherries, but that's the first fruit I've gotten out of this orchard. So hopefully next year we'll start to get the fruit. Back here are my peach trees. They are getting pretty big. They really should have gotten pruned this summer, but they did not. Oh, here's one more cherry, Rainier cherry. So yeah, so these are my peach trees. They're kind of overgrown. And something else to show you. See here, last spring I was starting the sheet mulching process, and I put down cardboard, and it kept the thistles from growing back. So, like I said, I think sheet mulching is going to be my approach for 2024 to deal with the thistles, because burning and weed killer and hand digging did not work. But these peaches are all doing really great. Got 3 peaches in here, and then in between the peaches I've got some figs. See, there's a fig right here. You can see that. I think those are all Chicago hardy figs. I've got 2 figs in here. This is kind of a mess. I'm not going to go too far because there's this tick, I think it's called tick seed or tickweed, that has these seeds on it that stick to my clothing, and I already started going in it. See them? So I'm not going to go into there, but yeah, so 3 peach trees here. I also have in behind that some, I have an apricot and a hardy almond. Okay, so again, looking back at the thistle situation, which is out of control. And then these raised beds, this line of raised beds did not get planted this year again because they were out of control. So, lots of work to do this winter. I'm not getting new chickens next year. I'm just going to keep the 7 that I have. So, my focus is really going to be on thistle eradication, weed eradication, and re-sheet mulching the orchard, as well as between the beds. So I did just pull thistles out of some of this area here. It all looked like this, and now it looks like this. This had my corn in it. That came out this week. This is my potato bed. These all have to be mulched. I've never really done mulch on my veggie beds, so I gotta figure out what I'm gonna use. I might use some of the soiled bedding wood chips from my chicken coop. This had cabbages and stuff in it this year. I got this pumpkin I gotta take into the house. Have my green beans in here, my squash. Nasturtiums are still growing. That garlic is probably gonna go in this bed. I'll probably plant that later today, actually. Still got some cherry tomatoes back there, but a lot of these beds just are overgrown. So I really planted mostly in these 4 front beds, plus a couple beds back behind it. This bed that has the chicken coop cage on it, the portable chicken coop, was supposed to be salad greens this year, but it was overtaken by, oh, what are they called? Lamb's quarters. And I fed most of that to my chickens. They really loved it. So I put them in the little temporary coop to kind of clean up the seeds and weeds, and I will use that around the garden this year. Hey ladies! This coop's kind of a mess right now. I've been composting in my coop. That's been my approach to compost. So you can see they've got weeds and plants out of the garden, and they just peck through it. They just dig through it and peck through it. And they also have back there some bread, and you can see like some pineapple tops, some various fruit scraps from the local restaurant. They give me old bread and fruit scraps. So my ladies love picking through all that. And then I go in there periodically and I rake it all back into a pile, and they go through it again. So the run is kind of muddy right now. I think before winter comes, I'm going to put a tarp over these other 2 portions. You can see there's a tarp over the back section, but I'm going to go ahead and put a tarp over the rest of it so that they have a little bit more of a protected area for the winter. So kind of funny story. See that speckled chicken back there in the corner? That is a random chicken that showed up in my neighbor's yard, and she came over and she's like, "Are you missing a chicken?" And I'm like, nope, I'm not. She couldn't figure out whose chicken it was. So at nighttime, once it settled down for the night on the fence, I went over there and grabbed it and put it in my chicken coop. It took a few days, maybe more like a couple of weeks, for it to fully integrate into the flock, but now it's integrated and it's fine with the rest of the chickens. So I had a random chicken that was added to my flock. Over here on my crabapple tree, I've got a mulberry that I did trim back a little bit, but I need to trim it back probably almost to the ground this winter. Mulberries, doesn't matter how much you trim them, they'll come back. So back here, this is all going to get planted this weekend probably. These are a lot of my shade plants for my forest garden. This crabapple gives quite a bit of shade. So this is going to be kind of my forest garden area. The only things I have planted in here so far are 2 hazelnuts, also known as filberts. Some things I'm going to be planting in here in the next few days include some partridge berries, huckleberries, wintergreen, pawpaw, and a random elderberry. So that'll all be put in here. I was actually going to do that today, but I decided to make this video instead. There's some pokeweed that I pulled out that I've got to haul off to the either put in the trash can or haul off to the dump. Again, some weeds, when they come out of my garden, they have to be destroyed. I cannot compost them. Poke is one of them. Chickens can't eat it, and thistles are the other one. So here in the back of my garden, you can see the orchard. In the very back, you can see the peach trees and how much bigger they are compared to the other trees. I have room here for a few more berries. I planted right here in this small line some black raspberries, and I was gonna put the blackberries back there by the gas meter, but like I said, I think I'm just gonna get rid of the blackberries and come up with something else to go there. And then back here is where my chestnut's gonna go. You know, I talked about in the first part of this video about how I plant my large overstory trees on the edge of my property so that they overhang the alley and that sort of thing, and that way I'm really increasing my space. So that is the plan for this area. So there we go. That's a tour of my messy fall garden. This strip here between the chickens and the back of the house, that's all the area that was, mostly that was cultivated this year. The rest of the garden was just overrun by thistles and weeds. So 2023 was the year of the chickens. That's the time I spent in the spring getting the coop built and painting it and erecting the chicken run. So 2024 is getting the garden back into shape. And I won't have any other major projects other than maybe the privacy fence around the backyard, but I will be hiring that out. So really, thistles are my project for 2024, thistles and weeds. So there you go. If you guys enjoyed this video and me airing my dirty laundry, such as it was, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you later.